And welcome to the show, Our Islam and Community Issues. My name is Naeem Sharif, and I'll be your co-host. We have some special guests today. To my right is Elise, and then next to her is Fatia, and then our co-host is Brother Benjamin Shabazz. Brother Benjamin Shabazz, would you lead us in a short prayer?
All right, we're just going to ask the Almighty Creator to guide us in what do we do, and what we do, we're going to do it in the name of the Creator. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ameen.
Amen. Well, thank you very much. The title of this show it's an interesting title. It's called Eat with Muslims. And myself and Brother Benjamin had a chance to meet these wonderful sisters here that do a fantastic work in the community. And this work is breaking ground with other faith communities and basically breaking bread with them. Because there's so much out in the atmosphere nowadays of Muslims and, to be fearful of Muslims, to hate Muslims. And most people don't even know Muslims. So these sisters here have taken it upon themselves to start this organization, Eat with Muslims. And who would like to lead off? Kind of tell us about yourself briefly, and then what made you start this organization?
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Elise. Fatia and I got together almost a year ago and decided right around, Trump getting elected and a growing sense of Islamophobia, that we wanted to make sure we were being more proactive in the communities that we serve and that we work in, and reach out to our brothers and sisters that are, non-Muslims that have no idea about our faith, and kind of, put our foot forward to say, hey, we want to meet you, we want to break bread with you, and introduce, how we live our lifestyle and what we believe in is very similar to Christians and Jews and other Abrahamic religions. So we decided the best way to do that, of course, is through eating.
Okay.
Everybody loves a good meal. And we got people on board, and throughout the past year, all of 2017 and 2018, we've had a great amount of success in bringing people together from churches, community centers, different nonprofits. And, I'm grateful that I met her in 2016, right?
Yeah.
I moved from Washington, D.C., and she moved from Minneapolis. And we were both kind of new to the area again, and being in the Seattle area was important for us to find a way to bring people together, essentially.
Okay. Fatia?
Yeah, well, I was friends with Elise's, I'm friends with Elise's family. Her mother and father are dear friends of mine. Her mother is kind of almost like a mentor of mine, an amazing woman, strong, beautiful sister. So I knew of Elise and the rest of the family, but her and I didn't meet till her mom invited us. Both of us moved here. I moved from Minneapolis, Minnesota, although I used to live here, and she used to live here. She went away for school, I went away for work, and we both came back around the same time. And so we were invited to a meeting by her mom, and so that's how we met, and we ended up having so much in common. But then, once the election, happened, we started talking, oh my God, we need to do something. We cannot let things be the way they used to be, where Muslims were just, just being passive and just, I'm not doing anything wrong. It's none of my business. Right. I don't have to go out of my way to reach out to anyone. So I got really, really afraid. I mean, I'm a single mom of 2 little girls, and I wear the hijab, and for the first time in a long time, I got very, very scared, because one day I was waiting for my brother in my car, minding my own business, and then this guy walk by me, and then he looked at me straight and just went bang, bang, bang. And that's just when I moved to Seattle. So by now I was here only for about, a couple of months. And of course, other things have happened to me since I started wearing the hijab, and I could really, it's a different world once you move from not wearing the hijab to wearing the hijab. And so we just wanted to reach out to our neighbors and strangers alike, because, like Maya Angelou said, we're more alike than we are unlike. But we're not going to know that unless we get together and share a meal and sit together, like Brother Benjamin was saying the other day. How do you know people? How would you know people? You never know till you sit with them, work with them, have a conversation with them. The minute you start doing that, your humanity reveals itself, and your sameness, comes forward, and everything else becomes a noise and kind of melts away. So I think it's very, very important for us Muslims to be proactive, like Ilay said, and reach out to our brothers and sisters, because oftentimes you have a lot of non-Muslims that come forward and want to make sure we're okay,
right?
And want to know how they can help us. And then you have the Muslims retreating to their shells, and I have my own friends, I don't need to make new friends. Well, it's very, very important that we connect with people, otherwise we could be in serious, problem.
And even in a liberal place such as Western Washington, we still meet people who are like, I have no Muslims, in my immediate area. I don't know any. So all I can see is, what is a Muslim from what television gives us? And obviously that's not a good depiction of us, So it's even important. And sometimes people will say, how come you, do it around here? We're kind of tolerant, loving people. But again, it's not, Muslims aren't seen as Americans. They're always seen as the other. So it's still important for us to reach out to people here.
Yeah, and we wanted to make sure also that, yes, there are masjids everywhere and places of worship, but majority of, most people are kind of intimidated by, places of worship.
Right.
They don't know if they enter with their shoes, without their shoes, who would they talk to, who would,
Where
they
sit,
just,
everything,
would they be welcomed? Would they be kidnapped? They have no idea.
Yeah.
But we wanted to give people the chance, anyone who wants to meet a Muslim, the opportunity to not only meet a Muslim and a diverse Muslim group of Muslims, but also to be able to sit with Muslims and have meal with a Muslim or with Muslims, and kind of create a beautiful, space where people can connect intimately and sit together and talk about whatever they want. So our project is more about, it's not only an interfaith, it's more about kind of relationship building, friendship building, because once you talk to people and you hear their stories, it quickly becomes your story, just like yours. And then when you hear other people saying nasty things about them, and dehumanizing them, it's easier for you to think about the people you met and talk with and had a meal with and say, you don't know what you're talking about. People are not all the same. And believe me, it has been just incredible. It's been an incredible journey. People reach out to us from everywhere, not only from Washington State, everywhere in King County and Washington State, but also from other states. Do you have Eid with Muslims here? We want to meet Muslims. So people are out there, want to reach out to us and meet us and sit with us and hear our side of the story and get to know us. We need to do the same and get out of our shell.
Very good. Benjamin, I know you have a question, but let me just add that you have a website, correct? And it's eatwithmuslims.org.
Yes.
EAT, and then withmuslims.org. So,
one word, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Brother Benjamin, I know you had some questions.
Is he going to put that on the screen?
He's on it.
He's the engineer.
The engineer is on it.
From the stratosphere.
From the stratosphere. He's not even feeling good and he's still working.
Yes, sir. Yes,
so,
sir. I just want to say how commendable that the work that you're doing And Allah talks about this in the Quran. There's a whole chapter called Neighborly Needs. Neighborly needs. And, but also in the Quran, Allah tells us that Christians, Jews, and Muslims, and anybody who believes in the hereafter, in righteousness, it goes so forth and so on. But He said they will have no fear, nor shall they grieve, and they will have their reward with their Lord. So it's like good people. We're not enemies to each other because we carry a different label. And so that's why I'm excited about what you're doing, because there are a lot of groups I call myself belonging to, you know, that call themselves reaching out, but then they have incorporated within their ideology, you know, this madness that's going on in the name of Islam, you know, and it's kind of self-defeating. But I hope that Allah blesses you with more help, and so you can expand this message, expand this endeavor, till you can be. People can say, "Yeah, I was at the Eat with Muslims thing the other day." Yeah, and they can just talk about just like regular conversation. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, that's the goal. You know, when every time I think about all mankind, we've created you from a single pair of male and female, and made you into tribes and nations, so you'd come to know one another, not so you despise each other. That's really, I've always had that in me personally, because I just love people. I love humanity, and I could, I'm not just gonna, yes, I could love someone because they're Muslim, but we're human beings. You're not just gonna love someone because they're Muslim and just dislike someone because they're not Muslim. You know, that's not how we're designed. We're designed to love anyone who is kind and decent and see us as human beings. So all this, you said something that really moved me the other night when you come to Eid al-Muslims dinner. You said, if we see each other as human beings before we think about anything else, you see the human being in front of you, then everything else just goes away, which is what I remind my children. I always tell them, my daughter one day came to me and she said, "Oh, my friend Thomas, you remember him?" I'm like, "Okay, I'm not sure." And she said, "He's the Chinese one." And I said, "Why would you say that? Why can't you say it's just Thomas?" And she's like, "I was just giving you a description." And I said, "You're right. There's nothing wrong with giving a description so the person can think about, can picture what you're talking about. But in other words, always see the human being in front of you, regardless of what they might look like, their color, complexion, religion. It doesn't matter. See the human being in front of you, and if you treat others the way you want to be treated, then everything else is just going to be fine. But I think what we really want to do, Elise and I were talking about this. So we're a little over a year old now. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? What we talked about, our goals, and for this year.
So because essentially our first dinner was January of 2017, and so we're coming up to a little over a year, and we want to do an Eat with Muslims day and have people all over the country bring in their neighbors and their friends and community members and say, I want to host a dinner, and I want to talk to you and get to know you, and bring communities together from all kinds of cities. We want to do that April 28th, and so we're working towards getting people together for that. I think the hardest part we've faced throughout this time is getting other Muslims on board with what we're doing, because sometimes it seems like we get so busy and we think, oh, what do you mean? You want to get people together and eat? Why don't you give that money to a community, and there are people hungry and starving, and what is this? And so it's important for us to remind other people it's actually, giving back and getting other people to understand who we are is just as important. Like you said, it's literally the simplest thing is to open your doors up and say, hey, I want to bring people in and talk to them.
Yeah,
And
because because there are people out there who think every Muslim is plotting something,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
Yes,
But
they do.
and hiding something.
And there's only a couple, 3 million Muslims in this country? Excuse me.
Something like
and,
that, yeah.
And so there's so many people who've never interacted with other Muslims. If it's only 3 million, imagine that. So it's kind of a cool day for everybody to kind of, hey, I want to, get our neighbors together and our community members and our
And
churches
strangers
and
alike.
strangers, everybody, you know. And so I think the bigger picture is to just have our own voices and our own narrative being told by us rather than for us.
Exactly,
You know?
Yeah.
exactly. Because when you see these different talk shows or whatever, they always talk about the Muslims, but there's never a Muslim on the panel.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And if he is
If he is, he's an ex-Muslim, maybe.
Yeah, something. It's just something just out of. What I would just describe to us the format at Eat with Muslims. So, just kind of describe, where do you usually have them, and kind of like the format.
Okay, so so originally we came up with an idea where Muslims in Seattle area and King County area would take turns hosting dinners in their own homes. We would come up with the money to pay for it, but people would actually, families would host them.
Right.
You could host your neighbor, because we don't know our neighbors anymore. Neighbors don't know their neighbors anymore.
Yeah.
You could host, as long as it's, other non-Muslims, you could host whoever you want. But then it was kind of, Elise and I were both new here. We just came back. We realized we don't really have a large Muslim community. We don't know a lot of people,
Right,
for us to talk to about this. And not only that, but we didn't know also, we needed to build and expand our network on both sides, Muslims and non-Muslims alike. So we decided to do group dinners. So we would invite Muslims and non-Muslims. Usually it's less Muslims. And we would get a beautiful space. So we would always cater the food or have someone cook the food. It's a Muslim food, the type of food that is eaten by Muslims. We eat a lot of rice and a lot of lamb and goat meat and all. So it's kind of an elaborate, fancy, but really also delicious food. What we wanted was the Muslim hospitality, to showcase the Muslim hospitality, which is beautiful and plenty. Muslims are generally very, very giving people. Once you especially get to know them, they'll, we know we're very kind. It's just not a lot of people somehow know us in this country, and we're kind of, I guess, seen as the others that don't get along with anybody, which couldn't be farther from the truth. And now we have so many churches reaching out to us, so we can hardly keep up with the demand. So the churches already have their, built-in congregation, and you've seen it the other night. I mean, there's so much love in the air, and people appreciate it. They just appreciate, and a lot of people don't know. People think about Muslims and they say, them and their Allah, like if Allah is some person. Allah is the same Allah that the Jews and Muslims, and Christians share.
Right.
I have this printout here where you have, not a lot of people know that the Hebrew call Allah. It's spelled E-L-O-H. It's the same, it's Allah. You can tell it's Allah. In Aramaic, you have Allah. It's, and Muslim, in Islam, you have Allah. It is the same word that has always been around. For example, you have the peace, shalom, shalom. We all know it's Hebrew. Shalama is Aramaic, and you have salam. It is the same word. We're not some fringe group. We're almost 2 billion people around the world celebrate, practice Islam. You have, for example, angel, malaika in Hebrew, malaka in Aramaic, and malaika in Arabic. We need to, as Muslims, make sure that we let people know that our faith is not this strange thing that's practiced by, you know, some people. It's the faith of Adam and, you know, Abraham and, you know, Moses and Isa and, you know, so on and so forth. But who is going to tell our story? If we don't tell our own story, then we will always be, you know, these people who always have something to hide. And so what we really would like to do is April 28, we would love to reach 1,000 households around the country, you know, and we want to call it Eid with Muslims 1,000 dinners, where Muslims everywhere in the country host Eid with Muslims. And then eventually we would like to get to a place where Muslims everywhere kind of host Eid with Muslims once a month, you know. And we already talked to a lot of people who are willing to be part of this. And now that they know people are interested. I see in the beginning a lot of people were not sure if non-Muslims would be interested. But now that they know that so many people are interested in this, they will be part of it.
And our format for the dinners is usually, you know, we kind of introduce us and you know, talk about the space that we're in. And then we will have a meal, but we try to like split, because we never have as many Muslims, obviously. But we try to split, you know, different Muslims with non-Muslim groups at different tables. And then, you know, conversation is usually casual and flowing, and it's almost like just, it sounds silly, but you almost have to remind people that, hey, I'm actually having trouble, you know, at work too. What do you know? What is your boss like?
Issues with my kids.
You know, my kids are doing this. You know, I have soccer this weekend. It's the same things that, you know, other people are going through. And then you know, our last dinner that you both were at was really beautiful too, because we had Imam.
It was the most diverse.
Yeah, it was the most diverse. We had African Americans,
Caucasian
Iraqi,
Americans,
Caucasian Americans, converts, literally just, you know, so many.
We had Middle Easterns. We had everybody.
Yeah, everybody. Let me just interject, and you're right back. Maybe this is a good time, if possible, to show some of the pictures from the dinner that was at St. Joseph's Catholic School in Seattle. And you all can make comments if those pictures are able to come up and so forth. But Jack, just continue.
Continue. I mean, it was really beautiful. We both kind of looked at each other like, wow, what a beautiful group. And, you know, we're not scholars. We're not here to, you know, talk about the faith.
Quote the Quran.
And quote the Quran.
We have you guys for that.
The scholars would be up there stroking their beard. And
right.
Not talking to nobody.
And so it was really beautiful to have, you know, the questions that our, you know, non-Muslim brothers and sisters are asking are also getting better and more open. Sometimes it often focuses on the hijab, and that's the fixation that we have in America is, you know, what are the women, you know, oppressed, or why do you wear the hijab? And so there's much more to it, and we're slowly getting out of
And if more of us do this, if more Muslims everywhere in the country do this, then less and less, you know, more and more people will realize that, well, yeah, I mean, it's what, 38% of Muslim women around the world wear the hijab, the rest don't wear the hijab, you know. So, yes, we don't have our own television shows, we don't have our own sitcoms and all that stuff, we don't. But this is the 21st century. That cannot be an excuse. We can take charge of our own stories and our own narrative. And, you know, we have, especially those of us in America, we have no excuse. You know, we have the social media, we have, oh, there's the pictures. It's just me. Elise was busy working, and I was.
She was working the crowd.
Yeah, she was working. She always ends up doing all the work because she's younger and energetic. So I let her do all the work. But yeah, but it's it's really, it's
That-
beautiful.
That picture is really cool. The woman that's speaking there, she's Muslim, and her husband is Catholic.
And they've been married
So-
for 27 years.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
And yeah, so, and this was a Catholic church, so it was kind of cool to have a
Right,
couple
yeah.
just, you know,
Yeah.
literally be a reflection of our group.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's Steve, he was moderating, the gentleman who's standing there. And you can't, because there were about, I think, less than 20 Muslims. You can barely see them. There's, the crowd swallowed them. But it was really a moving evening. You remember the gentleman who asked that, you know, he asked a tough question that a lot of us didn't know. Nobody was willing to answer. It was a transgender, I think, person.
Oh, yeah,
yeah. And eventually at the end of the evening, she was sitting with someone and saying that I want to learn more about Islam.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
There you go,
There's
Elise.
Elise. Yeah.
How's it going?
You look beautiful.
So we have about a minute and 30 seconds before we have to end this, but we really want to really acknowledge your work because there's so many people that are just sitting around not doing anything, complaining, and just letting things be. And it seems like that the women are really taking charge, and they're moving forward. They're not waiting on the men. You know, it's y'all come on, or you know, do what you're gonna do. You know, let's do this. So in that, we wish you well in you know your coming months and years, and we will try to support as much as possible. We really enjoyed being there with people of other faiths, and like you said, it was just easy. They had the same, you know, they had general questions, but you know, everybody had the same concerns. You know, how can we make life better for the human being? Brother Benjamin, I give you 15 seconds.
I'll come to ask a question. Would you guys come back and do another show with us sometime?
Oh,
We would love to,
definitely.
yes.
All right,
definitely.
that's all I need to know. There we go.
We can talk about our Muslim brothers and sisters and have that
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
conversation.
yes.
Have that conversation. Okay, that sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you all very much, and remember April 28th, having a big deal. Go to their website. Thank you for watching, and peace be upon you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.